Experts say all that red-hot magma that we saw filling up the crater is now accumulating in another part of Kilauea. Experts tell us that the buildup of magma could cause an eruption and possibly more lava fountains like the ones seen here that we saw back in March of 2011.
After which he collapses on the floor. Brown is dragged to a wheelchair. From here, Brown's physical condition appears to deteriorate even more, and he is left nude in a cell where he shows shallow breathing and is no longer blinking or being responsive.
The good news here, so far, no reports of injuries or major damage, but we had steady rains and 106-mile-an-hour wind gust on the island yesterday. Now,
one person is dead in New Zealand's capital, Wellington, after heavy flooding in the region, which has drenched homes and businesses and shut down major motorways. Crews struggled to clear highways on Thursday, and the city's train services were shut down, causing long delays for travelers. One person is dead in New Zealand's capital, Wellington, after heavy flooding in the region, which has drenched homes and businesses and shut down major motorways. Crews struggled to clear highways on Thursday, and the city's train services were shut down, causing long delays for travelers. Wellington's mayor urged people to find alternative accommodation in the city for the night rather than attempt to make it home. A library downtown was opened for those who wanted to stay. Police said they found the body of an 80-year-old man in Petone near Wellington in floodwater near his abandoned car, which was partially submerged with the keys in the ignition. Several areas around Wellington recorded rainfall of over 4 inches on Thursday. The region is home to some 450,000 people. I'm Matt Sampson, The Weather Channel.
Unbelievable. Typhoon Dolphin, now a super typhoon as it heads out to sea a day after battering the island of Rota. This happened yesterday with strong winds and whipping rain. Dolphin's eye threaded the needle of Rota, but also Guam through a 40-mile wide channel that separates the two U.S. territories. I mean, just staggering, Kate.
yeah, the good news here, so far, no reports of injuries or major damage, but we had steady rains and 106-mile-an-hour wind gust on the island yesterday. Now, waves pushed above 20 feet. You can see that incredible footage that, you have there. But these territories, both of those islands, incredibly well prepared for typhoons.
We're only 2 weeks away from the start of hurricane season, and it could be another busy one for us. Last season brought us 5 storms, including Hurricanes Ana and Julio, which grazed past the islands, and Tropical Storm Isel was a direct hit and caused a lot of damage to the Puna area of the Big Island. This season, forecasters have new technology to help them track storms. But first, Justin Cruz joins us with what we can expect this hurricane season. Just?
Well, Joe, we'll find the official numbers on May 26th, but today NOAA forecasted El Nino conditions to strengthen over the next several months. And there's a direct correlation between El Nino years and active hurricane seasons. For example, the average hurricane number is between 4 or 5 per season, but when you look at El Nino years, in some cases the number of storm systems have doubled. Like in 1982, where we saw 10 systems and had Hurricane Eva directly affect the islands. Then in 1992, 11 that hurricane season with Iniki hitting Kauai. And we've gone through seasons with a high number of storms, but no direct hits. For example, 1994 and 2009. And then, of course, last year, when we had a weak El Nino year, 5 storm systems with Tropical Storm Isel directly hitting the Big Island and causing damage. El Nino causes warmer temperatures in the Pacific Northern Hemisphere, and those warm temperatures are what make storms spawn and survive. Now, according to the Climate Prediction Center, there's about a 90% chance that El Nino will continue through the summer and about an 80% chance that it will be sticking around through next year. That's pretty much the entire hurricane season. So it doesn't mean we're going to get a direct hit, only that there's a higher chance of tropical cyclone formation for this upcoming hurricane season. Now, the Central Pacific Hurricane will release its forecast May 26th, and hurricane season begins June 1st, runs through the end of November. Coming up a little bit later in weather, we'll have an update on Typhoon Dolphin that's headed towards Guam. Joe, back to you.
Meteorologists will have a helpful tool at their disposal this hurricane season. Brent Ramadna has more on how the new upgrades will help. Brent?
Joe, the upgrades to the forecasting system were implemented in January, so this will be the first time they will be used during hurricane season. Meteorologists say the new features will increase resolution and pick up smaller features on the radars that normally were not seen, which means they can see more on their models and in turn leads to more accurate forecasts.
The computer model that we use for forecasting the weather can see smaller scale features, and because it can better analyze those features, it improves the long-term forecasting. So the increased computer resources helps to improve the computer models, which will in turn lead to a better forecast.
He also says the new upgrade should also help better track a hurricane's path. Forecasters say now is the time to prepare your emergency kits. A basic list of things you need to have include food, water, batteries, medicine. Also make sure you have plenty of cash on hand just in case.
Rumblings deep under the ocean may indicate the coming of Japan's next major earthquake.
Fresh from a 6.8 temblor this month, Japan has certainly seen devastation brought on by quakes and tsunamis. They are a country still recovering from 2011's 9.0 event that claimed 16,000 lives. Now researchers are detecting weak seismic signals in undersea trenches, and using ocean bottom equipment can potentially use this data to track progress and perhaps even predict slow developing earthquakes in populated areas that can save lives. Slower moving quakes are not disastrous on their own, but combined with lower frequency events, they can be. But their movement in dangerous areas or at vulnerable fault lines can provide valuable information on future activity. I'm Alex Wilson, the Weather Channel.
The death of hundreds of fish in Aiea has sparked a health department investigation. Officials gave us new information tonight after a viewer alerted us to the problem through the Report It feature on our website. Health officials say they found more than 500 dead fish along a canal by a bike path.
The species that we found were some native species, ava and bonefish, and some crabs, but primarily guppies and tilapia.
Water testing confirmed the presence of a solvent or cleaning solution in the canal, so now officials are working to find out who is responsible by checking storm drains and talking to nearby businesses.
In California, intense rain caused some flooding, but it's just a drop in the bucket for the drought-stricken state. From San Francisco to San Diego, streets were flooded and cars and trucks went nowhere. Weather experts say California's climate may be starting to change and could become wetter in the next year.
Back here in the islands, as quickly as the lava from Kilauea started to rise inside Halemaumau crater, well, it's now receding and pretty fast, and that could signal big things to come. Experts say all that red-hot magma that we saw filling up the crater is now accumulating in another part of Kilauea. Experts tell us that the buildup of magma could cause an eruption and possibly more lava fountains like the ones seen here that we saw back in March of 2011 during the Kamoamoa fissure eruption.
There could be lava fountains occurring, a few tens of yards high at the most, and those fountains would be feeding lava flows across the ground, and the lava flows would, of course, move down slope.
Now, to be clear, if this were to happen, and again, nothing's guaranteed with Pele, it wouldn't pose any danger. The area is already closed to the public, and all the activity would be pretty much contained to the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. But scientists would have another great learning experience. It certainly amazes everybody else, including them.
Sergeant James Brown served 2 tours of combat duty in Iraq. The decorated 26-year-old was on active duty at Fort Bliss in July 2012 when he left his family for the weekend to self-report for a 2-day DWI sentence at the El Paso County Jail. When he checked in, jail records show that Brown reported in writing to the jail that he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. Brown's mother says the instant he checked into the jail, he contacted her.
He said they're trying to make me stay 7 days instead of 2 days, so I just want to pay the court fine and get out of here.
He asked her to send the money to pay the fine in lieu of the jail time, which she did by the following morning, but by that time something had gone terribly wrong.
Hey James, you want to talk to me, James?
Now, after KFOX 14 obtained this video taken by a guard, we have a much better idea of what happened. At some point, Brown appeared to have an episode in his cell that caused him to bleed. It's not clear from where. When he refused to answer or speak to the jail guard, a team of guards in riot gear was brought in to storm his cell. Brown appears to show little to no resistance from this perspective, and in fact at no point appears to resist. Within seconds, Brown begins frantically telling the guards he cannot breathe. Then this. From beginning to the end of this recording, Brown would state that he could not breathe, at first frantically, then in what appears to be physical distress, and finally as he begins to collapse and can no longer hold himself up. As he is taken to the infirmary, Brown collapses and is hoisted up off the ground into the air and carried. During the time of this recording, Brown states at least 20 times that he cannot breathe. He is given 2 injections of lorazepam, which is a sedative.
Dude, please take it off. Take it off, take it off. Please take the mask off. I cannot breathe.
Brown also begs for water.
Please have water.
You gonna calm down?
Yes, sir.
After repeated pleas, he is given half a Dixie cup of water. About 15 minutes later, he is given another half Dixie cup.
Oh, you're cutting off my air supply.
And eventually allowed to wash pepper spray out of his eyes under a sink.
I can't breathe.
After which he collapses on the floor. Brown is dragged to a wheelchair. From here, Brown's physical condition appears to deteriorate even more, and he is left nude in a cell where he shows shallow breathing and is no longer blinking or being responsive. Brown appears to no longer be capable of pleading for anything. Attorneys say at no time was an ambulance or 911 called for help. I pray that new laws protecting soldiers in custody will be implemented, that the military adopt new policy procedures in regards to their soldiers being held in custody by an outside agency. If these changes can be made and our soldiers are protected and another family never has to experience what my family has, then my son's death would not be in vain. Brown's mother sent us this statement today. Brown's mother turned to KFOX 14 and says she wants Americans to see this video and see exactly what happened to her son in El Paso County. Brown was eventually placed on a gurney and wheeled out of the jail to be taken to University Medical Center, where he was officially pronounced dead, something the family's attorneys Jason Bowles and B.J. Crow insist showed a gross violation of Brown's constitutional rights.
When a 26-year-old active military person checks into jail for a court-imposed sentence on a Friday, and he leaves Sunday, in a casket, something went horribly wrong there.
Brown had no criminal record, and toxicology tests showed no illegal drugs in his body. The autopsy results cited natural causes by sickle cell crisis, and the sheriff stands by that in this statement released to us today. Mr. Brown's death was an unfortunate tragedy. The sheriff's office has conducted a thorough review of the facts surrounding Mr. Brown's death, and based upon all the evidence obtained, determined that his death was caused by a pre-existing medical condition. The specific evidence cannot be discussed because of pending litigation. Medical studies show sickle cell crisis lies dormant until it is triggered by dehydration and stress. His attorneys say apparently more stress than can be triggered by coming under fire in combat twice, which Brown did. His family says Brown showed no history of ever having a sickle cell crisis incident in his life and is convinced the medical episode was triggered by his treatment in the jail.
He was bleeding out the ears, the nose, the mouth, his kidneys shut down, his blood pressure dropped to a very dangerous level, and his liver shut down.
Republican members of the U.S. Congress have slammed the head of the Roman Catholic Church for recognizing Palestine as a state. The congressman warned Pope Francis to stay out of politics. The GOP lawmakers even questioned the pontiff's political stance on biblical grounds. The Pope is scheduled to deliver a speech before Congress later this year. On Wednesday, the Vatican formally recognized Palestine as an independent state and finalized a new treaty which updates diplomatic relations between the two sides. Palestinian officials have welcomed the decision, but Tel Aviv has described it as disappointing.
Witnesses say the ISIS flag now flies over Anbar province headquarters in Ramadi, just west of Baghdad. Fighting has raged since late Thursday when the militants struck with a wave of suicide bomb attacks. Well, let's get the latest with Nick Payton-Walsh. He's following developments from Beirut in Lebanon. Nick, just give us a sense of what is happening on the ground now. What are we hearing?
As we understand at the moment, coalition warplanes and Iraqi military helicopters seem to have joined the fight to try and retain as much of the city of Ramadi as the Iraqi government can. Now, this substantial assault began at early hours of the morning with 13, we're told, separate suicide bomb attacks. Now, two of these, seem to have allowed ISIS to sort of pummel away into the city's centre, using bulldozers, in fact, to remove some of the concrete walls that have been put in place to block any such bid. Now, they've moved into the city centre, taking the provincial headquarters, you mentioned, a police headquarters too, and also a key mosque there as well. Many locals fleeing, obviously, for their lives there, many of them terrified. We've seen in the past how ISIS have executed pro-government civilians in areas they take over, and of course Iraqi security forces doing what they can to try and hold on to parts of that city. Robin, this is of course a big deal, ISIS sweeping into a population centre like this on any day, but it's so much more significant because it runs totally against the narrative that Baghdad's government have been trying to push. They wanted, after taking Tikrit in the north, not to focus on Mosul, the other ISIS stronghold there, but in fact switch gears and focus on Anbar, of which Ramadi is the provincial capital. They had been hoping to push ISIS out. Instead, it's ISIS who are on the front foot, and potentially taking this vital city from the Iraqi government. The fight's still underway, Robin.
Indeed, the fight's still underway, so this battle could go on for a while.
It could do, and obviously in urban centres like this, things are extraordinarily complex. But the issue here is how much tenacity do the Iraqi security forces have? We've seen in the past how they melt away, how they pull back, how they do not stand and fight. We don't quite know what's happened here, but certainly a swift ISIS advance like this would suggest that either the Iraqi security forces there have lacked the equipment they need to do their job or haven't done it. Robin?
And a few weeks ago, Arwa Damon and our CNN team filmed residents of Ramadi leaving. This was weeks ago. Do we know how many civilians remain in Ramadi? What the situation is with them?
Hard to get a clear number, but of course, when you see violence like this, the first instinct people have, who've stuck it out there, who are, frankly, have been willing to resist until the end or hold on to their livelihoods until the end, the first instinct seems to be, when you see something like this happening, of course, to leave. So that could be vital. One of the key things, in fact, we heard in the message from ISIS's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, released just yesterday, was significant references to Anbar. We just have to see quite how this plays out.
This is a stunning U.S. Special Operations raid deep into Syria, deep into ISIS territory. Overnight, a number of U.S. Special Operations forces conducted a helicopter raid into eastern Syria to capture a man named Abu Sayyaf. He was killed in the raid. He was a senior ISIS leader who was not just known as heading ISIS's oil and gas operations, where they get so much of their funding from, but believed to be directly and increasingly involved in ISIS command and control operations. This information coming to us at CNN from sources familiar with what happened on the ground in eastern Syria overnight. All the U.S. troops returned safely, we are told. What happened is they flew by helicopter into this area in eastern Syria. They went to a residence where where obviously they knew he was. A firefight ensued. He fought back. Abu Sayyaf was killed at that point, but they were able to capture his wife, an Iraqi woman named Sayyaf. She, too, is believed to be very heavily involved in ISIS operations, also in human trafficking. So there's a lot of concern as to what she may know about the human trafficking and various human operations that ISIS engages in. They also captured a good deal of, obviously, belongings, information, intelligence from this operation, and they hope to interrogate her now and go through everything that they got, as they often do when they conduct these raids. They scoop up everything they can find and gain some more valuable intelligence about what ISIS is up to. But behind all of that, I think you can't really overstate how unusual this is for U.S. troops to go by helicopter, to go deep into Syria, to be involved in a firefight like this, and to be able to get out. Everybody got out, we are told.
Investigators trying to solve this mystery are pointing to two new pieces of evidence that indicate Amtrak 188 may have been hit by some sort of projectile prior to crashing. They interviewed the assistant conductor of Amtrak 188, who says that prior to the crash, she heard a radio transmission that took place between the Amtrak dispatcher and the engineer of a nearby SEPTA train. The engineer of that SEPTA train saying that his window windshield had been struck by some sort of projectile. She says that she then heard from 32-year-old Brandon Boston tell the Amtrak dispatcher that Amtrak 188 had been hit as well. They're also taking a look at that windshield, a circular marking on the lower left-hand side. They've called in the FBI for forensic analysis. Now, adding to this mystery, we're hearing from passengers from a third train that was in that area that night at around the same time. We spoke to passenger Cam Desai, who was on board an Amtrak Acela train. He says that prior to the Amtrak 188 derailment, about 15 minutes beforehand, he said that his train was hit by some sort of projectile. It struck the window right in front of him, and he said he was terrified.
I think all of us were a little bit definitely alarmed, and we'd never heard that loud of a sound on the train. We take the train pretty often between DC and New York, so it was definitely frightening, and we didn't really know what was going on. But as soon as we stood up and we saw that there was this glass shatter, but it hadn't gone all the way through, and the conductor made it sound like it wasn't too big of a deal, so we really didn't think anything of it.
Now, initially, authorities had discounted these reports of projectiles hitting other trains as unrelated, but clearly this morning investigators taking a look at this very seriously.